So the mission today is to get an e-start onto my paramotor. As I'm getting a bit older, I'm starting to struggle with starting it, and I'm finding I'm tired before I start to run. So I have a couple of paramotors. I've actually got a Parajet V3 with a very old Mosto 185 on it, and I've got a Scout Carbon with the MY19. It's actually a new motor, I've never flown it. I bought the engine just to fit to this motor, and I actually never got around to using it. The old Mosto actually had the new exhaust system, so this has the new exhaust shape, and I will take that. I'm actually going to transplant everything onto the V3 because this is my regular flying machine, and it's the one I enjoy. It's the one I enjoy using. But I'm going to fit the e-start to the MY19, and I'm also going to exchange over the new exhaust system. So job number one is get the two motors off of the paramotors. Okay, first motor is off. Fairly straightforward on the Parajet because it just sits on an adapter bracket. You've got the 4 anti-vibration mounts, the 2 with the reinforcing on the top of the safety strap, and 2 on the bottom. I'm not changing these because actually they're not very old. I put new ones on last year. And basically they sit on with these spacers onto this blue plate. It's quite straightforward. Probably the most painful thing was the hand start. In the end, I cut it off. So I just cut that off. I'll put a new knot on the pull start. But other than that, everything on there was fairly straightforward. Okay, so the first part of the transplant is done. The Scout now has the original Mosto engine back in it. Ironically, that's where it came from in the first place. It was put into the V3, but it's back in there now. The Scout Safe Start is re-enabled, so that's all in. The battery for it's all in. It's got the original Vittorazi throttle, so I will be taking the exhaust off of this later because it's the new style exhaust. And although the MY19 motor I've got is a new motor, it's got the old style exhaust, and I want to have this new joint on it. And this is my backup machine. So the first part of this is going to be removing the throttle and the existing wiring. I'm also going to take off this exhaust because it's just give me a bit more access, and as I'm swapping it over, it's got to come off at some point anyway. Okay, so exhaust is off. Now to just removing the original throttle. This one came with a actually didn't come with the throttle. I fitted the throttle I had, which was actually the Parajet throttle, which I have to say I'm not a massive fan of, so I'm not going to miss that. And I swapped it over because I much prefer the Vittorazi throttle. So this will become a spare. So the cable itself is fairly easy, very straightforward. So what do we have here? Temperature sensing, and what was a kill switch, but unfortunately got damaged when I took it off. So let's take this right off a second. So this is just a kill, and it's basically switched down to ground. So here, at the moment that's sitting in there, so I think I'll leave that in case we want the wire later, because it is a good ground. Let's this cable time. I put quite a lot of effort into tidying up the wiring on this when I put it together, but hey ho. to work out where this yellow wire is here, and I just realised it's the tacho, but it's because it's been connected into the harness here. It's actually not part of the throttle assembly. It's just been cable tied to it to keep it tidy, but it's got to come off. This harness tape is really good, unless you need to take it off. I used it because it's a low friction tape. Okay, so that's the temperature sensing and the throttle. So everything else here is ignition kit. So actually, plug that off now. This one will come away, and I think we can put a new terminal on that. So I will take that off. Okey-doke. So, whole throttle assembly out. Take this out for the moment. Put it where it's not. So this is part of this system, which is just here for capturing hours, doing temperature. Okie doke. So I think I'm at the stage where we start disassembling this end of things and taking a look at my instructions. So, next step, lay out the new parts. Okay, so this is the set of parts we've got for installing a starter. There's the big one. That's the actual starter motor itself and the ring. Got a new flywheel, pulleys, housings, and associated nuts and bolts that go with it. Over here we've got the battery straps, a wiring harness, and a new throttle. So now we're getting very close. We're going to start dismantling the original starter assembly. This is what we've got to go on. There doesn't seem to be a manual for this, so it's basically follow the assembly drawings. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay, so I think the first thing we're going to do is remove the starter assembly, the pull start assembly. It's pretty loose anyway. Taking all the tension out. There's quite good instructions on putting this back together, luckily. And I'll just take all the tension out of the cord so it's not going to do anything antisocial when I take it off. Just turn that back up. And we'll whip that one off. So that looks quite small actually. That's that 8mm. Yep. So, not very high torque at all. And those are pretty loose. Not too bad. Okay. Let's keep those bolts together. Yep. nuts come out. I think we can live without taking that too much apart. I think what I'm going to do is put some tape on that just to keep it together. So there is, this is the pulley for the block. So I think what I'm going to do is just to make sure I put it back in the right place. I'll grab a picture of that. Just so I know what I'm looking at. That one. There's a washer behind that. Some nice anodizing on here, I don't want to scratch. Check there's not a nut on the other side. Yes, there is a nut on the other side. Okay. A small socket on the back of that. I think could be. Fourth one. I'm going to get that one out. So for mounting the on the starter motor, you got the support bracket for this. I was trying to work out where it goes, but in fact it was only because there's a couple of, got one out already, but there's a couple of blanking points for this. It's just a plastic push-in, little plastic Christmas tree that is there to stop, probably to keep it clean. So these got to be popped out, and then the bracket for this can come on that side. I'm a little bit held up at the moment because I realised that there's a specialist tool for pulling the flywheel off, because it's a very strong magnet. So basically this is the new assembly that's going to go in with the ring on. I haven't put the bolts in yet. But to get this off, you need a tool. I haven't got that specialist tool. So that will be the next thing to order in the post. Place. So this one.
Okay, me from the future here. Whilst you've got this bracket in this state, it's a good time to fit the nuts on the back of the aluminium standoffs that are there for the pull start. They can be a real pain to get on afterwards if you forget it. It's the locking nuts.
This is going to sit in here. You start. And its appendix will sit in there. Oh, it's pretty. Yep. Okay.
Future Dave again. When you're removing those plastic Christmas trees, get the tool. If you snap one off in there, it's a real nightmare to get out. I speak from experience.
Okay, so rearmed with this little tool, which is a flywheel puller, and for this one it is M22 by 1.5. We can now remove the flywheel, so basically this will thread into here, thread it all the way, wind that down until this pops off. Now that look really easy, right? But I've already done it. So I'd already done it. Okay, so quick inspection when I did the test fit. So I haven't put any screws in the bracket yet. They're not fitted. But what I've spotted is that the terminal for the starter motor supply is really close to this. And on inspection, there is a new bracket for it. So in the kit, there is a new starter cable and a new bracket, and I assume this one is going to be much shorter. So next task is to replace this bracket. So I've got to take that stuff off again, but it's on. Okay, so there it is. I've just popped that back off again, and you can see that new starter bracket. New one in the kits. Okay, just removing this one, and unfortunately, this will focus, the screw here is just long enough to hit the carburetor body, so I can't just undo the screw. I've got to take the carburetor off. Okay, so what I've done is I've loosened the nut here so that this can be clocked counterclockwise, because when it was shipped it was clocked right into this throttle cable. So what I've done is I've nipped the screw down a little bit, which allowed me to clock this counterclockwise away from this throttle assembly. Otherwise it's really tight. And now everything is looking, all the bolts seem to be in the right place. So I think we're ready to put that back down. Don't think there's anything on the diagram that I've missed. So that looks fairly straightforward. I have a new spring washer, so I'm going to put a new spring washer on. Just so I sleep at night. A little tiny drop. I'll tighten there as well. Okay. So that one's 52 Newton meters, which is really low. Look, there you go. That's what it is. So I think we could put the ignition coil back in. Take this out. And then back in there. Still getting in that. Careful not to lose all. A very strong magnet here, so I want to make sure I don't lose a washer inside the machine. Going quite a long way because it's compressing down that heater washer. Okay, that's good. And I'm just going to put some marker onto those bolts. Okay, so flywheel is back in. Put the coil back on. This is torqued up to 52 Newton meters. These are torqued up to 10 Newton meters. I have put a bit of Loctite on these and this one as well. The torque doesn't seem super high, but the next thing to fit is this basket, which has 3 screws in it, which will come in here, here, and here. I'm sort of hoping that that's not got a nut on the back of it. Oh, it's going to look like a cock. Right. So the question is, do I want to bolt that on and then have a complete bastard to get this one in? Or do I want to do it the other way around? I think we're going to bolt the flywheel, the tooth wheel on first, because otherwise I'm going to be cursing around. So this is the 1, 2, 3, 4. MEO 3 or 4. down. It'd be quite easy to shear these little bolts, so nothing is being done like a gorilla. And then this can come on to here. And now okay, so I've assembled the teeth onto the flywheel. These are M4, so they don't want to be gorillaed up. There's a lock nut goes onto the back of it. I have used a little tiny bit of Loctite onto that, and then this will drop onto here. Go onto the diagram, there's nothing else in between, and basically it will line up with the 3 volts you see in there, and you can see the starter motor is here. I haven't actually put the bolts in for that yet, but it is all coming together. So next job on those 3 bolts, put these in, and then it's basically starting to put it back together. There's quite a lot of torque goes through all of these bolts. Okay, that's the big one. So this is an M6, and according to my table, M6 is 10 Newton meters. So in fact, we have 2 bolts from having the starter fitted. Of course, it's not wired, not in the machine. We're still going to work out the throttle, but the starter itself is in fact in. Okay, so I need a 6. We do. It does. That's good. So we've got 10 Newton meters. Now I want to lock the cylinder again, don't I? Two. Three. Let's go around, do a security check. 1. 2. 3. Nice. Okay. So I need the M112. That's all working really nice because it's all nice and new. Okie doke. So, next job, put that inside there. These are critical bolts, so I'm going to mark them.
There are two plugs on the starter motor. One is the plus in, one is the ground. The unit actually grounds through the chassis, so you do not need to attach the ground. Cover that pin in heat shrink to make sure you don't inadvertently plug the starter cable in there, or you will be making a dead short across your battery. Bad move. You will destroy a solenoid.
And that is the electric starter fitted. Okay, so I'm reasonably happy with what I got today. Everything is mechanically assembled. The throttle's on, it's all running. I've adjusted it so that at full stop the throttle's here, so I can't over stretch it. It gives me a full range of the throttle anyway. Starter button's in here, kill button's up here. That's my next job, is to do the wiring, but not tonight. I think that's enough for tonight. With the wiring, I've adjusted this plus now. The negative's on the grounding. I checked that, that's on the chassis, so there's nothing to do there. I've got my instrumentation, but that's separate wiring, and then it's just wiring up the actual starter itself, which is all of this spaghetti here, but there's a plug on the other end, so it's not such a big deal. Good, so hopefully next time I have the time to sit down and work at this, I'll be able to actually crack in, get it finished, get it mounted back in, get the exhaust back on, and then give it its first test flight. Cheers, bye. Okay, so today we got the mechanical fix last week. All of this part is now dry, all these little green blobs that are there to let me know it's locked off. The crank start is back. That's just a little block that will go up the other end. It's temporarily tied here at the moment because I'll set the length once it goes back on the paramotor. The electrical connection is here, so in here we've got 4 wires, which will be the basically the push start and the push to kill. There is a wiring harness that comes from Vittorazi with the kit. So here we have the mating half for this. So we've got the other half for that. We've got the starter relay, heavy duty relay. We've got some fairly chunky battery connectors. There's the positive, somewhere here is the negative, and I can't see it. Where are you? Ah, here it is. So here's the negative. It looks like what they're using here is this bracket is a ground distribution. The starter itself, the positive connection is in here, and it's grounding through the chassis. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to work out where this mounts and gives me a good grounding.
I've designed a basic 3D printed battery box that includes the battery holding and also the isolation kill switch. The battery I'm using for this is a 4S 4500 mAh battery with 45C rating that can source up to 200 amps. The standard relay was replaced with an 80 amp continuous type relay, that is 2 times the original, and the battery ground is taken directly to the starter motor, and the ground terminal on the starter motor is isolated to ensure it doesn't get used by accident. Okay, some final notes. The engine cranks really well. I think that's I'm running 4 cells, so plenty of voltage there. I measured the current, and the surge current is around 125 amps. That's only for about half a second, and it very quickly settles to around 60 amps, and that's cold cranking. The electric start kit I got from Fly Products in Italy. Very good guys. They hooked me up with everything, full kit of parts. It was about €1,000 for all those parts are not so cheap, but still cheaper than spending £3.5k on a new engine with starter on it, especially as I already had the engine. From an engineering perspective, I was surprised that there was no dowel or key from the tooth pulley to the electric starter. There's a lot of torque going through 3 quite small screws. Let's see how robust that is. The total time for the mechanical assembly, probably less than 4 hours, including taking it out of the paramotor and putting it back in. There's a little bit more time spent. Probably spent a couple of hours designing the battery box, and then a couple of hours to print that out. That was done in a PETG, so it's not going to be affected by UV. And finally, I hope this helps someone, because when I was looking for any guidance on this, it was really hard to find anything on the internet from anybody who had actually fitted an e-start. I found a video of a guy pointing at one, but not much more. So good luck, and hope you enjoyed it. Bye.